Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Fiat Grande Punto car. The third generation Fiat Punto is a very popular B-segment car that has been on the market for 11 years and still hasn't left the scene. Is it that successful? Let's find out by looking at used cars. In 2009, Fiat introduced the Punto Evo model, 35 mm longer, which is on the one hand a facelift of the Grande Punto, and on the other its richer version. Both versions are offered simultaneously, while the next name change takes place in 2012. At that point, the nicknames disappeared, and the Punto itself remained, which was offered in two different standards. The poorer one, similar in the interior to the previous Grande, but with the Evo body, and the richer one is simply the previous Evo. Currently, the Punto is still on sale, but only one equipment version with two engines to choose from: 1.2, 69 hydrogen phosphide, or 1.4, 77 hydrogen phosphide. Engines. The choice of engines is huge, and largely depends on the specific model we are dealing with. The basic petrol engines are 1.28V with 65 or 69 HP. The 1.48V engine with 77 HP is slightly more powerful. The 16-valve versions reach 95 HP in the Grande or 105 HP in the Evo and Punto multi-air engine. There is also a supercharged T-Jet version with 120, 155 or 180 HP in the Grande, and a multi-air turbo generating 135 hydrogen phosphide, 165 or 180 HP in the Punto Evo, and only in a 135 HP version in the Punto. In the latest version, the 0.9 twin-air engine with 85 or 105 HP was offered for a relatively short time. Now let's move on to diesel engines. The oldest and least modern unit was from the beginning the large 1.9 multi-jet engine with an 8-valve head, reaching 120, 5-door, or 130 hydrogen phosphide, 3-door. It no longer appeared in the Punto Evo, where its place was taken by the more modern 1.6 multi-jet with 120 HP. The same engine also found its way under the hood of the Grande Punto, as well as the newer Punto from 2012. The smaller 1.3 multi-jet engine was offered in all versions and generations of the Punto and has a power of 75 to 95 HP. Which engine to choose? Basically, the older the model, the more we recommend a petrol unit. Almost any without supercharging, except for the small and weak 1.2 engine, which is simply not suitable for the large Punto. It is also difficult to count on good performance in the 8-valve 1.4, but the 16 volts give the car pleasant dynamics. There are no problems with the above-mentioned engines, and if something breaks, it is usually small things such as the ignition system, coils, electrics, sensors, or accessories, fuel pump, alternator. The problem with some 16 volts models is oil burning. Not exceptionally excessive, but you have to watch it. Each of these units tolerates LPG operation well. The exception here is the newer multi-air unit, which in the naturally aspirated version reaches 105 HP and more in the supercharged version. The hydraulic valve control technology is currently quite reliable and does not cause problems, but there may be a problem with parts, and specifically with their prices. If you are looking for a strong petrol, it is better to decide on the 1.4 T-Jet in the Grande Punto. It's a great and one of the best engines in its class. It's durable and reliable, although the turbocharger housings tend to crack. This doesn't apply to the most powerful Abarth 180 HP version. We don't particularly recommend the 0.9 twin-air version due to its low torque and potentially high repair costs. The loaded car doesn't really want to go, unless you're talking about the 105 horsepower version. At the moment, there are no complaints about these engines, because there are very few of them on the market, but we consider them risky. For diesels, we recommend larger engines, i.e. the modern and very refined 1.6 multi-jet or the older, clumsy but durable and cheap to repair 1.9 multi-jet. Its typical problems are damage to the EGR valve, fuel pressure regulator or overboost valve. Repairs do not pose any problems for mechanics. There are many parts, both in the form of substitutes and used ones. The 1.6M jet engine will be slightly more expensive to service, but it works more cultured and uses less fuel. In the city, it usually does not exceed 6L, 100 km. Its typical problem is the DPF filter, which requires constant trips outside the city. Therefore, the best choice for city traffic is the 1.3 multi-jet engine produced in Europe, which, regardless of its power, will never make the Punto a speed demon. However, it does please with its low fuel consumption. On the road it easily uses less than 4L, 100 km, and in the city less than 5L, 100 km. Its faults result from its design. The small capacity of the lubrication system means that an oversight can result in oil shortages. If the engine is far from seizing, the timing chain tensioner will not work properly because it is supplied with engine oil. This in turn leads to the chain stretching. The problem was eliminated later when the Punto was introduced, but regular inspection is still recommended. It is worth noting here that this engine does not work with a dual-mass flywheel, but its clutch requires attention because it is not durable. So which engine to choose? We recommend the petrol, 95 HP 1.4 for undemanding people looking for an older model, or the 77 horsepower in a newer Punto, but on condition that low operating costs are the most important. It is also worth taking a chance on the multi-air version with 105 horsepower. If you are looking for performance, it is best to choose the 1.4T jet or 1.9 multi-jet in the Grande Punto, or the 1.6 multi-jet in the Punto Evo or Punto. If you decide on a supercharged multi-air, you have to reckon with expensive repairs. For people who drive a lot in the city, the 1.3 multi-jet or 1.28V can be conditionally recommended. What goes wrong in the Fiat Punto, Grande Punto? The quality of the interior is good. The body is perfectly protected against corrosion, but there are some abrasions of the thin paint around the rear doors. When buying, it is not worth paying special attention to the fit of the elements and the gaps between the parts of the upholstery, because from the factory it looks average at best. It can be a bit tiresome to have water pouring into the cabin through the front wheel arches or a damaged rear window, as well as jammed door handles. It is worth taking a look at the steering system. The third-generation Punto is equipped with an electric power steering system with city mode, which, when activated, makes the steering wheel at a standstill. Even a frail person can turn with the smallest finger without effort. In reality, and in normal mode, the wheel should turn very easily. If it doesn't, you'll need to be prepared to spend a few $100s on repairs. The steering shaft may be faulty, which causes a knocking sound when you turn hard. It was repaired as part of a recall. The suspension and brake system are not the most durable areas of the Punto, but they are the cheapest to service. The rear beam requires replacement of cheap bushes every 100,000 kilometers, while the front only requires replacement of the McPherson strut bearings and wishbones, which are completely regenerated. It is worth checking the brake drums from time to time, because the rear brakes can be very neglected. A typical problem with Fiats is the electrics, and this is also the case with the Punto. A lot depends on the model and its technical condition. I personally know two owners whose opinions on the operation of the electrics are extremely different. One visits the workshop all the time, the other has no problems at all. Individual sensors, coils or equipment elements can break down, e.g. burned out bulbs and non-functioning wipers. We advise against automated gearboxes. There are very few of them, but they do appear occasionally. It is true that it is difficult to get opinions about them, but experience teaches us that these types of gearboxes cause expensive problems and do not provide any driving pleasure. This is one of the greatest advantages, if not the greatest. The third-generation Fiat Punto is a model for which you can easily buy parts. Of course, provided that you do not choose the 0.9 Twin Air or Abarth version. Here you have to reckon with high costs, and some elements for multi-air may be available only in the service. Fortunately, the Fiat Authorized Service Center network is well developed and the prices of services are not among the highest. You can buy consumables in almost every wholesaler, and there is no shortage of used parts. The overall operating costs are not high, because almost every engine version is economical. Many of them do not cause expensive problems, and the prices of insurance or tires are low. Is it worth buying a Fiat Punto? In our opinion, yes. It is an honest car that does not bring high costs, and in return offers economical engines, durable mechanics and comfortable travel conditions. The car is so successful that despite 11 years on the market, it can still keep up with the competition, and the only drawback of new copies is the lack of a slightly more powerful engine. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.
I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro.